1061 The River, the best of the 80s, 90s, and now Halloween morning. I thought we'd invite our very special friend and guest back, JAdam Smith of the Haunted Knoxville Ghost Tours. We had you on a couple of weeks ago. Welcome back, JAdam.
Well, thanks for having me.
You betcha, my pleasure. Now, it being Halloween, I know a lot of people are probably really into that frightening stuff for today or whatever. Ghosts to you really aren't frightening. Let's talk a bit about your first haunted experience that you had that kind of made you go, whoa.
I guess my paranormal experiences happened in my late 20s down in Florida, and it happened with buying a new two-story, well, not new, it was a 1923 house, but I bought a beautiful two-story house downtown right across from a fountain, literally a fountain, and working on the front lawn, the gardens and all that, a lady drives by and stops and sticks her head out the window and says, "Hey, do you know your house is haunted?" I kind of like looked at her and I'm like, thank you.
Realtor never told me that. You're kidding. So, did that place something into your mind, or were you noticing things at that point in time?
And, that's the way I kind of looked at it at first, because for the first few months, literally, I was just like, nah, that light's got a wiring issue, or, it's just drafty in here, or, all that kind of stuff. But then it started getting to a point that even animals coming into my home could see something going on. They were barking at a wall for no reason, all this kind of stuff. And then also the feelings of dread, the feelings of being watched was just ridiculous. And of course, I didn't have any tools like I use in paranormal investigation here today back then. So I was nervous. It
was just a sense, though, at that point in time, just not there were, other than the little lights and things of that nature, just a sense kind of thing you had.
Yeah, until it got real, and I got woken up in the middle of the night by a moan inside my house. And it wasn't a moan like from an air conditioning unit or anything like that. It was literally a human voice moan inside my home. And at that point, I was like, okay, this is too real. I'm scared. I'm heading over to my parents' house. And interestingly enough, my parents were wondering why I was there so early in the morning. Yeah. And I told them, I says, I really don't want to say. And they says, tell us. And I says, well, I think my house is haunted. And interestingly enough, I got an interesting response from them, a very accepting. And I'm like, huh? Double take? What? Yeah.
You're not telling me I'm crazy. You're not doing that. Well, you better see somebody about this. It's that they were accepting, huh?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And then my father, he ended up saying, yeah, remember our New Jersey house that we stayed in for that year? And I'm like, yeah. Well, we feel as though that place was haunted, my dad says. And of course, now he's letting me know at this point, and not before that. And of course, at the time, I was like, okay, I don't know who I'm going to talk to. I guess you could end up throwing in the movie line, who you're going to call, right?
Yeah.
But at that time, I had a prominent violin school in the city, well known by all the business people, all the churches knew me, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, I don't want to go to a church. I don't want to go to these places and say, look, I'm crazy, and all that. So that's when we really started getting into, I started trying to figure out, instead of asking others for help, I ended up looking for help myself. At that point, that's when I really got into trying to figure out things. And of course, once you start going down that rabbit hole, it doesn't stop.
It begins. That's where it begins. We're talking with JAdam Smith. Jay is the owner-operator of Haunted Knoxville Ghost Tours. You are also a certified paranormal investigator, and we're going to talk about that coming up here in just a few minutes on 1061 The River. 1061 The River, best of the 80s, 90s, and now. Back with guest in studio, JAdam Smith. The Haunted Knoxville Ghost Tours is his business. Now, you, JAdam, are a certified paranormal investigator, and you are on a national stage. You've been on the Travel Channel with this expertise and things. We just talked with you a little bit about kind of what your first paranormal experience, haunted experience was. What does one go through to become a certified paranormal investigator?
Well, that's what's really neat, is they're popping up all around the country. And at the time, I was saying, you know what, I want to understand more about this, more than just what I find on the internet. So I decided that a good direction to move was to find a location that actually could train you, teach you all the ins and outs of paranormal investigations, everything about how to do it properly, how to debunk, how to be scientific, all that. And I found a place called Spirit Team. They did a really, really good job. They have literally a very fat textbook that they created with all the different information about paranormal investigation. And then you have to be tested on it to make sure that you understand and retain the information. And I can say it gave me a good foundation. Now, I'm not going to say that I agree with every philosophy in it, and a lot of people who take the courses, all this, you will see some personalization for the person who actually wrote the information in there. But it gave me a really, really good start, I guess you can say. And of course, one of the things that drove me to get certified was I read a blog on the internet, and people do the dumbest things. There was a college kid that said in a blog text, "Help me, I want to get a ghost in my apartment." Yeah, it just blew me away. So I literally...
Does he want to split the rent? I mean...
I really don't know. But when I looked at that, I was like saying, I copied it and framed it and said, you know what? This is going to be a motivation for me. I'm going to educate and teach people about what to be aware of, because it's just like using a Ouija board or any other tool like that. You have the possibility of having something negative coming in. You don't know, if you don't know how to use it properly, when something negative does come along, you're not going to know how to deal with it. So anyhow, that was a motivation for me to teach and educate. And of course, I had a experience that I helped remove a negative spirit from someone. And of course, I want to help people, even if I'm quote, quote, not prepared. So before I got certified, I helped someone because I felt as though they need help. So I'm praying the Our Father and all this kind of stuff to get that negative spirit out of that person. And after it got out of her, it ended up coming after me. And that was my opportunity to be up for 48 hours straight, because I was literally frightened at the time. So when you don't know what you're doing properly, you have a chance that something's going to come after you. And you really need to understand how to hoard it off, how to ask for the right protection, to know how to do it, and all that. And that's where people get things wrong.
We're talking with JAdam Smith. He's the owner of the Haunted Knoxville Ghost Tours, a certified paranormal investigator. You've been on the Travel Channel. Jay, what are some of the actual true stereotypes that exist out there in the world of the paranormal that people are going, well, this is probably true? Let's kind of talk about which stereotypes are true and which ones are false.
Oh, that's very good. Okay. Well, I would say probably one of the first stereotypes I'd be looking at is the idea that those TV shows that we watch on TV are all about pulling fear out, because fear, a lot of people are into trying to get scared or wanting to get scared and all that. But the problem is it changes the whole investigation aspect and what you're doing when you're dealing with the spirits. So the biggest thing is spirits aren't typically bad. They're just humans that are not in this reality or on this plane kind of thing. So if someone was an angry person being in a physical body, they would be an angry person as a spirit. If someone is a loving person in real life, they're going to be a loving person in the spirit. Hey, if someone was a house mom that was very, very tidy in their home, and you go in there and you're not very tidy, you might pull out some agitation from that spirit. So you treat them like they're still living, basically. And that's one of the biggest stereotypes I have issues with, is that.
Do they know they're dead?
Sometimes they don't. My belief is that, say you died in your sleep, it's possible that you may not know that you're dead, because you may have gone into the next level or gone into the next plane of existence through that means there, and not have known that you literally died. So I have run across some spirits like that.
Okay. Fake stereotypes. People are afraid of this type of thing, and you obviously don't have a whole lot of fear when you go into this. Should people be afraid of spirits?
I would say if you can't control your own emotions and you don't have control of the vessel that you call yourself, then yes, you should be afraid, because they'll mess with your psyche. And that's probably the biggest things with spirits, is that the idea they like to get into our minds. So if you're not a rock solid person and you're going to go in, say, to an investigation with some medication or something that might be illicit kind of thing, and you're not in full control of yourself, there's a higher probability that they're going to get into your head kind of thing and can really cause a lot of off balance. So you have to be really careful.
All right. We're talking with JAdam Smith of the Haunted Knoxville Ghost Tours this morning on 106.1 The River. We'll have more with him coming up here shortly. 106.1 The River, best of the 80s, 90s, and now JAdam Smith joins us, a certified paranormal investigator and owner-operator of the Haunted Knoxville Ghost Tours. What is the most surprising thing that you have seen on your Haunted Knoxville Ghost Tours, Jay?
Well, actually, in our first season out, and this is our third season now, we actually got a picture of if we want to call it an apparition. Probably so unusual, I guess you can say, because I'm sure there's a lot of fans out there listening that have watched the Ghost Hunters and the Ghost Adventures, all that kind of stuff. But we actually got a photographic evidence of a residual, which is like a residue, a spirit that it's like a tape rewind, on Gay Street. And she happened to go right in front of a picture of one of my team members' cameras, and when you look at it, you can actually make out everything from her blonde hair, panicked eyes, the clothing that she was wearing, which was very Civil War period. And it just was quite amazing. I actually had it verified by internationally renowned psychic in Boston, Robin Marie, and she was able to verify that, in fact, it was a Civil War nurse that was on her, I guess, mission with going down to get lye soap, because, again, nurses, typically what they do all the time is, washing. They're like glorified wash maids back then.
Right.
So she was on her mission there, and we actually got photographic evidence of that, a split second when she went in front of that. So you can find that if anyone's interested in looking at that. You can actually go to our website, knoxghost, knoxghost.com, and look at the galleries.
Okay. How many different ways can spirits or ghosts, per se, manifest themselves? You talked a bit about an apparition. Are there certain levels? How do you judge?
How they manifest themselves, there's so many different ways. We're very fortunate nowadays that we have tools. I mean, back in the 1930s is when we have some really renowned pictures of apparitions and stuff like that in camera work. But back then they didn't have the kind of equipment we have today. So today we have all these different tools that you utilize while in paranormal investigation to help give credibility to that there's something unusual out there. So we got everything from EMF detectors, electromagnetic field detectors, that can be able to source, see if there's any energy and where it's coming from. And I personally find that the EMF that can get floating EMFs that aren't connected to a substance, say there's some unshielded wiring underneath the ground. The first thing we're going to do is be scientists, and we're going to check to see if that source of energy is coming from the ground. But if it's not coming from the ground, it's just floating there. It's hard to debunk that by itself, saying, I can't seem to come up. At 3 years doing the tours, I have yet come up with any solution for a floating EMF, and they're all over Knoxville, especially at the locations that are haunted sites. It's just real intriguing. And of course we have, temperature changes. We have, ambient temperature gauges, and we have even things like compasses and cameras, digital photography, lots of different ways to be able to kind of verify and prove that there's something unusual out there, a little bit more than the norm.
We're talking with JAdam Smith, the Haunted Knoxville Ghost Tours. If people want to go on your ghost tour, become the investigator, what can they do?
Well, you would go to our website, knoxghost.com, which is knoxghost.com, and you can follow the links to reserving your tickets. And you're right, Bruce. One thing special about our tour is we are one of the first paranormal investigation-based ghost tours in the country. And we are not orb chasers. We will teach you scientifically how to prove something is out there. And we turn a lot of skeptics into believers.
Definitely. I know CJ went on one of the tours, I believe it was last week before the Thriller on the River, and she came back and was just raving how cool it actually was. And she took her daughter along with her, and it was really cool for her. So, again, if anybody is anxious to get involved in this, you do tours pretty much year-round.
Yes, we do year-round tours. During the winter months, we tend to take a little vacation because it gets kind of cold to be out late at night.
Okay. Again, people want to get involved in this. Let's give out the information one more time.
Come visit us at knoxghost.com, knoxghost.com, and make sure you Facebook us, facebook.com/Haunted Knoxville, and keep up to date with all the cool things going on with us and discounts on tickets.
All right. JAdam Smith of Haunted Knoxville Ghost Tours, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and happy Halloween.
Well, thank you, Bruce, and I appreciate you having me on again.
Time for Daily Dirt on 106.1 The
Wednesday
River.
Morning time for Daily Dirt, brought to you by Capiella Real Estate. CJ joins us. Good morning. Happy Halloween.
Good morning. Happy Halloween. What a great interview with JAdam Smith. Wow.
Yeah, that was fun. He's well endowed with all of the information about all that paranormal stuff that so many people find, there's just so many different schools of thought on it. People are like, well, I don't know if that's real, or I don't know if that's real. This guy will set you straight.
Those ghost hunter shows are so popular too. I took a group of girls, and you mentioned it at the end of the interview. It was kind of funny because Jay was like, I don't know if I've ever been out with a group of just women before, you know?
Unfamiliar territory. He's about ghosts, but
but we had so much fun. But in being in this business, I've interviewed a lot of hypnotists, a lot of psychics, people along different types of, these types of jobs, and he's the real deal.
Yeah.
He really knows his stuff. We went on an actual paranormal investigation, and we're walking around Knoxville. It was wild because we're walking around that very old graveyard, the one right downtown. Mm-hmm. And it's a place where you would never end up at night. You would never even think of walking through here. And then one of Jay's friends joined us. We had a special kind of a guest celebrity paranormal investigator, and he's been on some different programs and well known throughout the paranormal industry. And here's something interesting that happened in the graveyard. So there's this old lamppost that flickers all the time. And he was explaining to us that the spirits that live in the graveyard, that's their toy. They like to play with it, especially when people walk through, they mess with it and turn it on and off. And so he asked them if they would please turn the light on for us in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bing!
And it's on.
Yeah. Crazy, huh?
I'd be sitting there like the Cowardly Lion from The Wizard of Oz. I do believe in spooks. I do believe in spooks. I do believe in spooks. Run out of there, jump through a window out of there.
Well, here's some good news.